Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special and exciting episode of What Are You Doing? I am your host, Tommy Waters, of course, and you are either listening live on 88.7 WRSU FM, New Brunswick, or you're catching this on YouTube at the What Are You Doing YouTube channel. So check out both things because they're great. And with me, this is actually the first new show of my season. We've had a bit of a technical hill getting over. However, now that we're ready, rolling, there's no time like the present to get a real good show in right here, right now on Election Day. So this is a big day. Joining me, I have a very interesting panelist, two very interesting panelists. Number one, I got my main man, the main Democrat of the Demo West, if you know what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. I got Adam Falone. Adam, how you doing today?
Hi, Tommy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for asking. And of course, he's our resident tub lord, I guess is the best way to put it, Jack Deal.
Wait, why was it Dem West when we're on the East?
Exactly. It doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make sense. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about pretty much arguably one of the most important elections in recent American history. So let me just gauge you guys real quick. Which way do you guys lean?
Now, Tommy, I told you I didn't want any tough questions today.
This is very tough. I haven't thought about this yet.
All right, take your time. Be slow.
All right.
Take your time. All right. We only have an hour. So.
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Up.
All right, Jack, go ahead.
I lean up.
He leans up. Got it. I'm gonna just do a hard reset on this, and we can get on with our lives. So, no, but in all honesty, which way do you guys lean?
Very left. I would say.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the left here.
Yeah.
Strongly to the left.
Yeah, I know that, but my viewers don't. So, this was a very interesting election, in fact, or a very interesting circumstances leading up to this election. First and foremost, I was reminiscing today about 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago on Election Day. We were all sitting in Jack's basement. Jack and Adam were ready to pack their bags and move to Canada if Trump won.
But we're still here.
And you're still here.
We had put out two things on the table. We had tickets to Canada and a suitcase, and we had two air horns, and the winner was going to get the air horns and the loser was going to get the ticket to Canada. It was meant as a joke.
Oh, that is correct. I remember that now.
It didn't turn out as a joke, but that's how it started.
But this time, I might actually need a ticket to Canada.
Yeah. I'll print one out for you.
This is a very... If you would have told me about... Excuse me, let me rephrase. If the world was normal, if it was normal circumstances, I would say Biden would have this election in a landslide. However, we are not in normal circumstances. And I think it's seeing what the Trump administration is doing with the whole mail-in ballot situation is a little shady, not gonna lie. Adam, would you please go into this more?
Well, yeah, it's definitely very shady. I mean, we see Trump, who has basically held the post office hostage and not giving them the funding they need to deliver these mail-in ballots. And now I don't think we've heard a whole lot about that. But then instead what's happening now is Trump's basically saying that any ballot that arrives after Election Day shouldn't count, which if you sent in your ballot last week and the post office is taking a while to deliver it and it gets here a few days after the Election Day, why shouldn't your vote count? You voted before the election. Right.
And that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it is a principle of democracy. So
yeah.
This is something that we've been seeing for a long time in voter suppression. The difference is that, as you mentioned, it's specifically with mail-in ballots, but they've been, you see, especially in red states, you look at Georgia, they remove around a lot of times college campuses, a lot of the voting places, and we are able to vote because college campuses and typically lean left. And so, what's the best way to suppress the left vote? You remove the amount of places that you can vote, so you're standing in line for hours at a time. And if you're a college student, you don't really have 5, 6, 7 hours to stand in line to vote.
Yeah, and a good example of what Jack just said is in Texas, where the Republicans basically made it so that only one drop box for your ballots had to be in each county. And obviously, counties can vary in size. So if you live in a big county, you might have to drive an hour just to drop off your ballot, which, I mean, not everybody can do that, you know?
Yeah. And I would say, and again, I would put out, feel free to fact check this. In fact, I'd encourage people to look up what Adam just said. Don't just take our word for it. Go out, do your research on this, because obviously if you're right-leaning and you're listening to this, you're going to think that we're just leaning on the Republicans and trying to hit that. I would say do the research, look up what Adam just said.
So it's a interest. It's I can't even say it's interesting because it's really not all that interesting. It just seems kind of slim shady. Like, if you're an American citizen, I believe you should have the right to vote. And no matter how you vote, no matter when it gets there, your voice should matter. Now,
Yeah,
that
and
being said, I can understand if there wasn't a rule that stated you just need to have your ballot postmarked by election day. If you have it postmarked for like November 5th, yeah, you missed it, kid. All right. But if you have a postmark for November 3rd and it gets there, like say on November 6th, you submitted that on time. You followed the rules. So for the Trump administration just to turn around and say, you know what, it doesn't count. What's
yeah,
going on here? And in my research, not to cut you off here,
right.
I have done a little digging myself and have discovered that a majority of mail-in ballots tend to be of those who are of left-leaning variety. So it seems as though he wants to just suppress the Democratic vote here.
You're absolutely right. I think if you take Pennsylvania, for example, I don't know the exact number, but I believe so far it was like 1.5 million Democrats requested mail-in ballots, and only like 500,000 Republicans requested a mail-in ballot. So it's just, I mean, why is it that way? I don't know. I guess it's more so just the trust that Democrats have in the mail-in ballots than Republicans, that Democrats are going to want to do the mail-in ballot, and Republicans prefer to vote in person.
Yeah, I mean, especially during a pandemic. But the other thing, and this might be jumping the gun, but something that I'm very worried about what's going to happen is that on actual election night, it's going to look like Trump is ahead because you're going to have a majority of Republicans going to voting places. Those are able to be counted first because a lot of the places are electronic. And then Trump, I believe it was Adam, you had sent in our group chat an article that said that there are rumors that Trump is planning to declare victory on that night, which then begs the question, what's going to happen when all the mail-in votes are actually counted? It might take up to a week, maybe more, and it turns out that Biden won by a significant lead. And this is after Trump has been saying with nothing to back up this claim that mail-in ballots are fraud. What's it going to look like to his supporters? Right? It's going to look like the way that he's setting up the narrative is making it look like the Democrats are causing election fraud in order to kick him out, when that's not the case, but that's how he's going to frame it. That's at least what I'm worried he's going to do.
Quick side note, I'm not echoing for you guys, right?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, just making sure, because my the way it's looking, it seems as though I'm talking, but I'm not. But that's besides the point. The main thing I wanted to say was I always expected if Trump loses this election, I don't see him conceding. However, I was talking to my news people for WRSU, which, by the way, we have full election night coverage tonight, starting at 8 p.m. to 11. If you want the most objective and, in my opinion, reputable news organization to give you the best information and best live updates, tune in tonight from 8 to 11 for that. But that's shameless plug out of the way. I don't see Biden conceding either until he knows all the votes are in.
Well, yeah,
which
nobody's going to concede.
And that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Like he's going to fight this, being like, no, you threw out votes from thousands of Americans, and in many of these states where votes are just being discarded, these are important swing states. Like, Adam, you were just saying, what was it? It wasn't Georgia. What was the first state?
Texas?
No. It was another one. Wisconsin, Washington.
I think it was Wisconsin that
Are you talking about
voted
Wisconsin,
in.
where they said,
yeah. Go ahead.
Say that
Adam.
again,
that they
Adam.
wouldn't count ballots that arrived after Election Day?
Yes.
Yeah. Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that the ballots after Election Day wouldn't count.
Which is terrible, because in 2016 Trump won that state by 15,000 votes.
Right.
And currently, I believe it's like roughly of what, 80,000 votes.
80,000.
Well,
I think
they
it's
said
80.
in the primary there were 80,000 votes that arrived after Election Day that they counted because they were postmarked by then. So do the math, and if it's a close call and they're not counting those votes, then that's a problem.
That's a big problem.
And so I would, just as a quick aside, I would urge anyone who has not sent in their ballot yet, or sent it in a couple of days ago, you can still, in most states, go to the voting place, invalidate your mail-in ballot, and vote in person. Honestly, from what I've heard, it's a pretty simple process to do that. You go in, you tell them that your ballot didn't arrive in time. They're going to ask you for some ID or some type of verification of that, and then you can they'll invalidate the mail-in, and you can just vote that way in person. And I would say, if you're at all worried, go in person. Just please go in person.
The big thing is, no matter who you vote for, like personally, I don't care who you vote for. I just want people to vote, all right? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of either candidate. So, do I have a preference over one or the other? Not in the way.
Who is it?
All right, I'm gonna say it right now. I voted for. Can I get a drum roll, please? I voted for Joe Biden. Now,
A good choice.
Now,
that was a good choice.
Here's my thing. I'm not a fan of him. I think he's going to drop dead after 2 months in office. I'm not going to lie. So, and I really don't like Kamala either. I think she's worse.
Kamala.
Kamala.
I thought it was Kamala.
It's Kamala.
It's Kamala.
Really?
Trump has been saying it other ways, which might be why you've heard it other ways. But
I know I've been corrected back and forth, and today I was sitting there thinking, is it Kamala or Kamala?
Yeah,
I was
have to correct you every single time.
But I feel as though, like I was saying to myself today, I'm like, Kamala sounds better. So why? But why would I be changed? So all right. So I was right. In my head, I was right.
You were right in your head.
I was right in my head. But I was trying to be conscientious of that fact. So, because as someone who's gets his name spelt more often than not, spelt wrong, I know how important a name is. Just saying. So, but here's how I look at it as: I'll be honest, I was a Trump supporter back in 2016. However, after 4 years and seeing how the country is now, I'm not a huge fan of it, guys. I'm going to be honest. I have some serious issues, and I feel as though, why would I vote for someone who in my opinion has not done a good enough job in their presidency than than the opposite. So I'm not a type of person who's party over candidate. So I vote for the candidate who I think will do the best job. And in this case, it feels like I'm picking a rotting apple or a rotting orange. So I'm like, I like apples a little bit better. Now, as Democrats, I can assume you both voted for Joe Biden, correct?
Yes, that is true.
But it comes down to, like what you said, it isn't just Biden is a Democrat, therefore he gets the vote. It's that when you compare their policies and what they've done, Biden really is, at least to me, the better choice on a lot of issues. Now, let me put it this way, I'm not a Biden fan in terms of a lot of his policies. I think that a lot of times when the Republicans frame Biden as like this leftist candidate, when he's really not. He's center, maybe even you can make the case slightly right-leaning. I think he needs to go more to the left. But in terms of Biden, he's going to get us back in the Paris Agreement, which if you believe scientists that the climate is changing, we need to do that, and that's like a minor step.
And Jack, we're going to dissect a bunch of issues coming up later in the show.
I'll wait then.
Yeah. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Well, like Jack said, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Biden. I think it's no secret that in the primary, I didn't vote for him and I didn't support him. There were several other candidates that I much would have preferred. But at the end of the day, Biden is clearly the better candidate, has the better policies.
Like Marianne Williamson, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she would have been great, but
she would have been better than Biden.
But and also, to go back to your point, when you said you were a Trump supporter in 2016, I mean, I hated Trump from the day he started running, and I knew he had some terrible plans and stuff. But I actually think he's worse than I even imagined. He is. There were some things where, like, when he got elected, I was like, okay. I mean, he talked about infrastructure, which was good. He talked about getting out of the wars, which was good. He talked about lowering prescription drug prices, which was good. He didn't do those things, though.
No.
They were all failures. He did everything just to cater to his base. And
he also, cleaning the swamp was like one of the biggest things that he would talk about. And honestly, I was all for that, right? I'm like, look, I don't like the guy personally, but that was one of his policies that I agree with, and clean the swamp. And that he didn't, in fact, he made it worse. He invited, 3 Goldman Sachs into his cabinet?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, he's appointing people that aren't even qualified for their position. Betsy DeVos has no place to be the education secretary. She has no experience whatsoever.
I completely forgot she was in that position.
Yeah. What about Ben Carson as the urban housing or whatever? He doesn't belong there.
I think there's one main reason why he's up there for urban housing. So,
and even his latest pick for the Supreme Court, forget right, forget left, forget her policies. Just look at her record as a judge. She has she does not have the qualifications to be in a lifetime position on the Supreme Court. And that's putting policies aside, which I have many disagreements with her on that. But just looking completely at her resume, should not even be considered for the Supreme Court, let alone get on it.
Which, by the way, I have a problem with the Supreme Court. It really should not be a lifetime position. It really should be.
Absolutely, yeah.
It should be
absolutely.
It really should be chosen by the people. So it's akin to a presidential election. Like, because say I don't like the president. All right, perfect example. So now he gets to appoint someone who he likes, but that might not represent my best interests. So it's a genuine shame that, oh my God, what was her full name? Ruth
Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Thank you. I was about to say Mendelssohn, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
What?
So not at all.
Sound right.
No.
So, it's a genuine shame, and may she rest in peace. But but she couldn't have held out just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know there were some on the left that kind of attacks her and saying that she should have stepped down when Obama was president so he could have appointed somebody when Obama won his second term, but she didn't. But I mean, that's all in the past. There's no reason to look back on that.
Yeah, it's
at this point, it is what it is.
It's almost literally beating a dead horse. So
Yeah.
almost. So that was. It's going to be an exciting election, regardless. Regardless of what happens, I do think it is going to be close, no matter what. Even with many of these ballots possibly being discarded, I could see this election being a neck and neck race. Like obviously, some states are like Texas is always going to lean.
Well,
it's always going to be a red state.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
What do you mean?
Texas.
It's a very close election there.
Every recent poll has showed Texas is really neck and neck. Actually,
really?
One of them had Biden ahead by like a point or two. So
now we're going to see a ton of voter suppression in Texas, so we'll see how that turns out. But it's going to be closer in Texas than you would think.
And if Texas goes to Biden, that's game over. There's basically no way. Trump would have to win like the entire Midwest, Florida, North Carolina, and I just don't see that happening. If Biden were to win Texas.
If Trump doesn't win Texas, there is going to be riots, which, by the way, I have to say, the fact that businesses are boarding up in like New York City, DC, and a bunch of other major states, I think that's that's disgusting. And I see people on the right. I was watching Fox News today saying, look, the Democrats, the peaceful people, are forcing all these businesses to board up. And then I was watching CNN where it's like, look, the Republicans, they're going to throw a tantrum if they lose. And it's like, clearly they're both pointing fingers at each other.
Well, both are kind of true in the sense that no matter which side wins, there's going to be some type of backlash. Now, the question, I would say, you're way more likely to get people with guns if Trump loses, because typically his supporters are the ones. I mean, there's reports right now of Trump supporters standing inside of polling places with guns, and they're legally allowed to do that.
Is that legal?
I heard that it was ruled in some state. In some places it is. In some they said, no, you can't do that. That's voter intimidation, which it is. But in other states, I believe they said it's okay.
What kind of country is it where there are places where you're allowed to stand in a polling location with a gun?
Yeah, and have that not be voter intimidation.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be wearing like Trump apparel and stuff. They're not just going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do? Shoot me if I vote for Biden?
Well,
no, but they want you to think the hope is no.
What am I gonna do? What are they gonna do if someone walks up to me and is like, "Hey, who you voting for?" I'm like, "None of your business." That's who that's what it is.
No.
So
that's what you got to say.
Or I'd spit in their eye and say, "I'm voting for Kanye." I stood 2 hours in a line to vote for Kanye. Is that what you want to hear? So, but this voter suppression is going to be a little scary. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. And I would say, sorry, Adam, go ahead.
In Texas today, actually, the Republicans were challenging in court because some of the places, I think in Harris County, had drive-through voting. Because of the pandemic, so make it safer so you don't have to leave your car. But the Republicans were challenging that they can't do that, and the 100,000 votes or whatever that were casted shouldn't count. Luckily, the court today overruled that and said they do count, but it's just one of the tactics that they're using to suppress the vote.
It's bizarre. It's like, maybe you two can help me understand this more and with my viewers about how you can fraudulently cast a vote through a mail-in ballot or write-in.
Well, the answer simply is that you don't. There's been research into this. Like, they've actually tested this over, I believe, a 20-year period leading up to 2014, 2016, I forget the exact date. They found 4 cases of fraud, of mailing fraud, of voter fraud. 4 cases. in 20 years. And
Now,
feel free to please fact check that.
Now,
I
granted,
encourage people to do it.
definitely this year you will see a much higher ratio of mail-in ballots.
Mhm.
So
But
definitely,
even so, the idea still stands of you really aren't. You get the ballot, you fill it in. There's a ton of different provisions you have to go through. In New Jersey, you have to not only sign the inner thing, but then you have to put it in another envelope, and then you put that in another envelope, and then you have to bring it over to this place. And they don't make it easy to do mail-in ballots. It's not just like you go to a random person on the street and say, "Did you vote?" "No." "Okay, sign this paper." "All right, there's your vote." Like it goes to a household. They have ways of checking this. Which is why Trump's statement that mail-in ballots are fraud has no grounds to stand on, but he's creating this story, right? In this way, he's trying to be a storyteller. He started by the post office, by creating this problem with the post office where the mail wasn't going to go in there. Then he starts to tell the story about how voter fraud is a huge problem and how mail-in ballots, the Democrats are going to steal the election. And now, if he declares victory, if he's ahead on election night, then he's going to weave the narrative to be I won, and the Democrats are trying to create a coup to kick me out of office, and that they're the enemies, and we need to stop them. So it's just about telling a story, and he's unfortunately good at doing that to his supporters.
It's a scary thing about his supporters. Like, I know people in real life who are voting for Trump, but they aren't like brainwashed is the word I will use here. Like they're like, I'm voting for him because I don't like Biden. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. But
the big thing I hear from people who are like that, who aren't like brainwashed and totally on the Trump train, or you want to call it, is they say, I don't want to vote for Biden because I don't want socialism or something like that. And it's like, because they bought into the right-wing media and the Republicans' rhetoric of somehow saying that Biden's a socialist, which is farthest from the truth.
Yeah, I hate to tell you, the guy really is a Republican light, or at the very least a centrist. And just look at his voting record on that. There's a reason that he was. I mean, if you look at don't even look at the voting record. Look at the primary. He was consistently trying to frame Bernie Sanders as a socialist because he isn't. And first, Bernie Sanders isn't a true socialist, but that's the point being that Biden was always the centrist candidate. Always. He was never, ever the left candidate. And the right, for some reason, thinks that it's going to work by trying to tell people that Biden isn't. And I really don't think that a large majority of the country bought into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a ride, especially these debates, needless to say. The first one, of course, was a pretty much train wreck, disaster, garbage fire, whatever you want to call it. The second one did not go off because Trump got COVID and the entire White House got it. And the third one I thought was actually significantly better. So actually felt like a presidential election, but there were still many, many things that the candidates that Trump was saying, that Biden was saying, and I wish Trump said this and I wish Biden said that, and they just didn't. So it's not a great situation we find ourselves in here, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I mean, talking about the last debate, I saw a lot of discord afterwards that was like, oh, well, Trump had his best debate, he seemed presidential, he didn't interrupt as much. And my problem with those being your talking points, and that's your analysis, is that you're kind of discarding what Trump actually said in the debate. Because he didn't say, he was just as bad in terms of what he said in the second debate as he was in the first debate. He was just nicer about it. And for some people, that's all they care about. But I really encourage people to listen to what he said during that debate versus what Biden said. And Biden said some bad stuff too. I mean, I'm not in favor of fracking. I'm not in favor of. I think that we need Medicare for all, especially during a pandemic. But
we can't curse on air. We can't curse on air here. I heard you just say a curse. Fracking? You can't. Oh, now I said it.
Oh, Tommy, what are you doing here?
Oh my God!
Frack.
But
so
yeah, so that's my point. Is yeah, Biden said some bad stuff too. That I was, if you were to look in our group chat, which you're not going to, but if you looked in our group chat, you would see us going off on Biden that day. But but look at what Trump said too.
It will be a cold day on this barren, blazing earth before a single human soul outside of our group reads that group chat.
Speaking of which, I updated our chat archives today, which pertains to no one listening
Jack,
to this.
You can't say this on the air. Now somebody's going to go hack it and release it.
No.
They don't know. Well, you don't. They didn't know it was online until you just said that. So,
gee, thanks, Adam. Thanks.
We're just digging holes, aren't
we? Yeah.
All right, back to the topic at hand.
Yeah. What I wanted to go into now is actually discussing some topics, some really hot topics.
Oh boy.
Going on here. First and foremost, it's everyone's favorite. You know it. You love it. We are currently in month 7 of a 2-week quarantine. Give it up for COVID-19. Give yourself a hand, lady. Give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Good job, COVID.
Thanks, COVID. So currently, as it stands, I believe we are approaching 250,000 American deaths. With millions still testing positive, with millions testing positive. The American country has never been in a great situation from it, as many businesses, many people in government, Trump especially, was pushing that we just need to reopen the economy. And you saw states like Florida, which was at once the 4th highest place in the world with the concentration of COVID numbers. New Jersey, the beautiful state that we call home, luckily flattened the curve, not to 0, but we were significantly bad, and then we got a lot better, and yet now we see ourselves in a rise. The rest of the world is beginning locking down once again for a wave 2. And Jack, I am trying to talk here, and you are.
Did you hear the chair?
Yes. I am trying to.
Yeah, I heard that.
I have a monologue written out.
Can you hear the chair moving?
Yes. Yes. Well, that just pretty much killed my whole vibe. So
that's my goal.
The rest of the world is preparing for a wave 2. America didn't really get out of wave 1. So it's going to get a lot worse before. I can't even say before it gets better, because it really never got better. So it's just going to get worse again. I definitely see us shutting down again, especially in New Jersey. Our local school district of Point Pleasant Borough High School, all sports teams are quarantined right now because of COVID cases, and yet next week they are starting full time on Monday, and that is and I don't see and our current administration is of the mindset of you know what? Let's just get a vaccine and we'll give it to everyone. And it's so we're just going to let people die now.
Yeah, Adam, Trump said as much last debate.
Adam, I'm going to peg your mind here.
Okay.
What is your take on all this?
Well, I think from the start we've had a failed response from the federal government. They basically downplayed this thing from the start and basically told the states, hey, you're on your own. Figure it out yourself. They gave up when numbers started to go up, pretending that they were good. Remember the great coronavirus task force that we had?
No.
Yeah, probably don't remember because it was so long ago. But yeah, they disbanded in May when we were still in the thick of this thing and just kind of said, hey, we're good. We're all good. And then things got bad again. They started to get better. And now things are back in the fall and we're getting bad again. So I think we don't have to do a full-on shutdown. I wouldn't go that far, but there are definitely many ways we can do better.
Like wear a mask.
Yeah, I mean, a national mask mandate would certainly help because there's some states that still don't have that.
No. No,
Jack,
in fact, there's some states that just ignore that.
what about you? What is your take on all this?
On just COVID?
On just COVID in general.
Yeah, I mean, my take is like you said as much, we're having thousands to, I believe, millions of people just testing positive each day. You're having, I think, in New Jersey, New Jersey alone, there's over 1,000 cases that happen a day now.
2,000 about is what we're averaging, I think.
We're on month, we had March to now, so that's over half a year. And we're up to our numbers that we had during the worst of it before. Come on. You can't, that is a lack of leadership. And we definitely need a national mask mandate. I think that would go a long way. And we need leadership that does set the example and actually wears a mask themselves. I mean, it was reported Mike Pence, 5 of his aides got COVID, tested positive, and then Pence was going to not quarantine and continue going to different events. What type of example does that set? Right? Now, I would even be okay if let's go back 5 or 6 months. If Trump had said, we all need to wear a mask. I'm going to sell Trump 2020 masks. Here you go. Let's all wear them. That would have saved maybe 100,000 or more lives just from doing that, because you would have people who are now questioning the masks saying, oh, well, he's wearing them. I should probably wear one too.
The biggest problem, Jack, is that masks became political, when in reality, this could have been a great opportunity for Trump to make them patriotic. So, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm a man of science, and scientifically, if I wear something over my nose and mouth, that's going to stop the germs coming out of it. So, I'm not wearing a mask for me. I'm wearing a mask because if we get it, well, Jack, I don't know about you and your obesity and everything. You might be you might not be good and everything, but Adam, you and I, if we contracted this virus, we would be fine. So
yeah, probably.
Like if there's like a 99% chance of life.
99 is a bit high. There's actually been cases of young people getting and dying from it. So I think there's a 13% chance of something like that.
I think the death is certainly like 99% chance of recovery, but I think that when people say, oh, 99% chance you're going to live, just because you live doesn't mean you're going to be fine. There are many cases of people who have long-term effects who maybe got it months ago and are still dealing with something.
My mom, perfect example. She got COVID back in March. She was a nurse at Meridian Health at a dementia ward. First and foremost, it is going back to this leadership thing. Meridian and the hospitals in New Jersey were very well aware of what was going to happen. Like, they were prepared. The hospitals were prepared for something bad. It got a lot more worse than they expected, to the point where they needed to funnel overflow patients through this dementia ward. Now, for those of you who don't know, a dementia ward is all old people who are practically senile, so who are suffering with dementia, Alzheimer's, and various other types of diseases and mental issues. My mom was in charge of 19 patients, and all 19 of them died, scared, alone, and confused. And they were forced to take these patients because just what the hospitals couldn't take it anymore. Like, they needed places to put them. And one of the biggest things I keep seeing is like, well, it's not Trump's fault. Okay, I kind of get that, but it really is, though. For a man who's in charge of the country, if you say everything will be fine, and then 250,000 people die, that doesn't sound fine to me. Imagine this. let me ask you guys something. Imagine we went to war back in January. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Remember, and 250,000 Americans died in that. So 250,000 soldiers died. That would be one of the worst death tolls. Actually, I'm not going to say that because I don't know the other death things, but needless to say, that is a huge, huge, huge amount of people just dead. So,
I
and that
mean,
would
were the amount of deaths, at least strictly talking about American deaths, I believe the amount of COVID deaths is something like 4 times the deaths in the Vietnam War, if you want to put it into perspective.
so
Um, yeah, and also quickly to your point about how we almost went to war in back in January, that was due to Trump committing a war crime and without going through Congress, assassinated a general.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just putting that out there. But yeah, to your COVID point, absolutely, it's the scale, the amount of deaths that we had is insane compared to what it could have been had we just done simple provisions. And also, we're talking about how we've so far been talking about how the government has failed people, the administration has failed people on protecting them from COVID. But also on the economic side, we're seeing some record numbers of foreclosures and record numbers of people losing their jobs. And this is due to the fact that the government decided not to give any sort of stimulus. They gave their what was it, $1,200 back in spring or early summer, which is nothing. Imagine living off of $1,200 to pay rent, to buy food. It costs about, for a typical person, around $100 a week for food to get a satisfying meal from that. And that
another thing, Jack. People like us, we didn't get any money. Our parents
Yeah.
didn't get any money. So
No.
so we straight up just don't count. Why don't we count? I don't know. I voted. I pay taxes. So why don't I count? Where's my $1,200?
Yeah, and you see how fast the government pushed through Amy Coney Barrett when she was going. So it's not like the government can't be fast. Their priority, Mitch McConnell's priority in the Senate, was not to fast track another stimulus bill. What they did do, however, was fast track stimulus bills for corporations and companies, because their mindset was if we help them, that's going to help the people, which never actually works out. It just helps the corporations. But we need an administration, and this is a criticism of the Democrats too. We need an administration that is for the working people, and we got to stop protecting those who are going to be just fine without the government's help.
Adam, let me pick your brain about this. Pick your brain. Let's talk about this record-breaking foreclosures and stuff in businesses and people just straight up unemployed. What's your take?
Well, I think I kind of basically agree with what Jack said, that the government has to have stepped in, passing a stimulus bill, making sure that people had the money to actually be able to continue life, make sure businesses had the money. And one thing that we should do is, if a business has to close, I mean, and a lot of businesses have to close because they might have a COVID case or something, we should be giving them money weekly for the lost revenue that they're seeing, especially for restaurants who maybe they can't do sit down, they can only do takeout. They don't see as much revenue. So the government has to provide that to them so they can survive.
Now, let me ask you something. As you are a bit more knowledgeable on this than me, Biden, in all his debates, in all of his press stuff, I have never heard him once say he's going to give money to businesses. He said
he did.
Yeah, he actually, I mean, you can go on to his website and look up his COVID plan. Talks about what a stimulus bill would look like in his administration. And it talks about giving resources to the businesses that are struggling and to the people that need it.
I've heard the resources thing, but I haven't. But I guess that's just with the money.
Well, he specifically said in the third debate that we need to think of the small businesses, and I think he told a whole story about that. And then they went to Trump, and the moderator asked Trump to respond to that, and Trump's answer was to talk about 401ks, which goes to show you which one where their priorities are at. I mean, this was Trump. We talked about this a little bit already, but Trump ran on a very populist right agenda in 2016, which is why he became popular. And I can be sympathetic to the people who said, wow, my life really didn't change that much during the Obama years. Trump is something, right? He's offering something new. Versus now, after 4 years where he, as we've said, has really gone back on anything that might have been good, he's done the exact opposite and just made it worse. And I think we need a bigger step than Biden, but Biden is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I figured you would. I figured you would.
What a surprise, right?
This is what happens when when your guest cancels on you, and you have to just scrounge for anyone who's available. Which, by the way, I am still very happy that you guys managed to come on. So thank you very much.
Well, I think
I
don't know how much
I wasn't invited first, for your election special.
Listen. I was gonna have you.
Point at it.
I was gonna have you on in some way, shape, or form. All right, but I had a different guest, which I'm not going to reveal because I will hopefully get them on a bit later on for more and more stuff. But needless to say, I'm going to one more big thing on COVID is we probably will not see any semblance of normality until well into 2022, which is a scary thought to me because a few things. Number one, I wanted to enjoy my senior year of college a little bit, which again, it's a very selfish thing to say. Like, I understand people are dying, people are losing their jobs. I have been blessed enough to where I have a roof over my head and I have money in my pocket. I can go to work, I can go to school, and I can enjoy my life. Some people can't do that. So it sounds really privileged that I can just be like, well, I wanted to have fun, which I still think is a fair.
Although, it's not even just about fun. I mean, being at your school and in-person classes is much better education than doing it online at your house.
Oh, absolutely. So
yeah, I mean, think of how you didn't really get money off for the fact that you're learning at your, and that's the case for most colleges. You can think of mental health for college students within staying in the same place versus being able to go on campus and see people. Yes, there is an element of you want to have fun, but like Adam said, you're here to also be educated.
Yeah. And another big thing is I want to go see a movie again.
Oh my god, yeah.
I want to go to a movie theater, man.
I want to go to a concert.
He wants to go to a concert.
That's my life.
Our lives. Yeah. It's his life. It's now or never. We ain't gonna live forever.
Don't torture the audience.
Yeah.
If we get COVID. All right, I'm done. So
yeah, but I think that's kind of back to the COVID point because we kind of covered everything. But Biden said as much in his debate that any president that has almost 250,000 deaths during their presidency should no longer be president.
And here's the thing.
You need someone else.
The Trump administration frames this as, oh, it could have been a lot worse. Okay, yeah, if we did literally nothing.
Yeah.
He cites the how there could have been like 2 million deaths. That's literally if the government did absolutely nothing and everybody went on business as normal.
Yeah, and he forgets the statistic that says there could have been max 50,000 deaths if they actually did proper rules and they set in proper restrictions.
And I get it. a global pandemic is probably not something Donald Trump thought he'd have to deal with in his presidency. I don't think really any world power probably thought that this was going to be an issue.
No, well,
No,
he
but
didn't think of it because in 2018 he removed his pandemic task force.
right. I was
Whoops.
going to say, like, as president, you have to be prepared for that, and he clearly was not.
Especially
As Biden has said, I think there was a tweet from Biden last year saying that this administration is not prepared for a pandemic, that they disbanded the task force or whatever, and they've taken away money from that.
Listen,
So they're not prepared.
I remember this time last year reporting on like the first cases of COVID in Wuhan, and I remember being as naive as I was, saying, "Look, it's never going to reach us. It's not
Mhm.
going to be a big problem. I promise you." And then I was proven wrong 3 months later. So,
Yeah.
as then even
And this is why, and Trump's big thing is he says, well, I did everything I could. I shut down travel from China into America, and that should have been enough. But it's like, if it's already in America, you could shut down China. That's not going to help the cases spreading in America. And I think he has really said as much in the past debate that we're just going to kind of let it run its course. And the question is, are you willing to stay within this lifestyle and just let people die until enough people get immune, which could be years? Or do you actually want someone that's going to lead? And they might not be. I'm not making the case that Biden is the best candidate ever. Far from it, right? I wish it was someone else, but he's a better candidate than what's there now.
I have to agree with that fact, especially just seeing how this has rocked my world, especially in my family. So, I want to move on from this, but there's just so much we got to still talk about. Like scientists. Let's talk about this right now and the vaccine. Number one, first and foremost, I don't know if you guys saw this, but at a rally over the weekend, he brought up a point of possibly firing Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the world's most leading experts on infectious diseases. I don't know if you've heard of him. So,
yeah, heard of him once or twice.
And the crowd is chanting, "Fire Fauci," and it's concerning. Like, if you're not listening to this guy, a genius in his field, who's telling you what to do. Now, granted, they've had their missteps in the beginning. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. They initially said something like, "Don't wear masks," and they turned around.
Right.
And I think it was revealed because they were worried that hospitals weren't going to have ventilators or something like that, which is still not a good reason. But
they said that you shouldn't wear a mask if you're not sick because they didn't want you to be taking it away from the hospitals that need the masks, because there was a shortage at the time.
Which
is not a good excuse, but
no, it's not.
I can attest to that because my mom's work ran out of masks, so me and my dad literally did a trek across the state looking for masks. We had fishing lines set out. I'm pretty sure my dad called up his old mob buddies or something to try to find masks. We eventually did. So, and we seriously just bought them out. So, which was like 300 masks, which would probably last them like, I don't know, a week, if that. So, but it's just like a big thing. Trump really should have been pushing for this mass production. Make a deal with oh my, I almost cursed there. Holy moly. Wow. Make a deal with corporations in this case if you really want to help them.
Well, he could have. There is an act, and I'm forgetting the name of the act, that he could call upon to basically force corporations to make things in a time of a national emergency. And he chose not to do that because he's a person that cares about the corporations and not about the working people.
Now, Adam, let me ask you something. If we can't trust Dr. Fauci, who can we trust?
Well, I don't know, because Dr. Fauci is one of the most trustable guys in government right now to listen to. I mean, I know a lot of people right now, they might not like what he has to say, but he's not wrong in a lot of things that he says. You know,
And that's I have to echo that point with also our governor in our state, Phil Murphy.
Yeah.
I am not a huge fan of Murphy. All right, I think I have my faults with him. However, I cannot argue with the results of how our state was going. So
Yeah.
we got it down. We got back to some semblance of normality. And I know why he's not shutting it down now, because he really doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's a
does
fair
anybody
thing, because
want to?
that's a fair thing, because it's he knows this is going to hurt businesses. So, and also the rate of which he reopened businesses, I do not agree with at all. So, unlike what businesses he did open when he did. So, and but that's besides the point I'm making. So, the big thing I'm just trying to say is no one wants to shut down.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to. But if we did it for 2 weeks and everyone just stayed in their house and we got a fat check for $1,200 saying, "Don't leave, please."
It needs to be that every month, but yeah.
That's a very well, if we just 2 week period, Jack. If we can,
Well,
perfect world, everyone just the entire country is a ghost town for 2 weeks. Statistically
in a perfect
speaking,
world, that would work, but
right?
that would never work in this country. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
No, never.
no.
Yeah.
The
And
main
I think that we also just need better care, and care that's not going to make you go bankrupt. And this is, I mean, to be fair, this is a huge fault with Biden. But Biden's never going to say, "Oh, we need Medicare for all."
There he goes again with his policies.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm
Here
going.
we
Hey, you
go.
agree with those policies, Adam?
Yeah, I know. I was
But-
waiting for the segment to come in.
Yeah,
Not sure if we're
but
gonna get to it though.
well, we have 10 minutes left, so I thought I'd bring it up anyway. My point was actually the fact that
Oh, Jack.
Trump's like socialized medicine too, because when
Yeah.
Trump got COVID and he was flown to a government hospital, and with his $750 in taxes that he paid,
Of
he
course.
got the best care, some of the best care, definitely in the country, possibly in the world in some cases.
Well, the thing is, I was reading about this
For free.
today, was he probably paid out of pocket for a lot of those expenses as well. Plus, plus he was probably willing to do anything experimental. Biden would never do that. So
I don't know how much say he had in terms of experimental stuff.
I mean,
to be honest,
I don't doubt that Trump said to the doctors, "Give me anything that you think might make me feel better."
yeah, that's true.
but needless to
But
say,
no, that was all paid for by the government. That was not his money that he
Yeah.
paid for.
well, I don't know that for a fact.
Well,
They
look it up.
Look it up. That's a fact that it was paid for by the government.
Listen here. What are facts and opinions nowadays anyway? It's one and the same. Am I right, fellas? Am I right?
Nah.
Make
Can't
sure
agree
you,
with that one.
ladies
Maybe
and
in a
gentlemen,
fantasy world.
Shut up. I am talking. All right. You do this all the time. You interrupt me when I'm trying to say something.
I'm gonna rock the chair.
And we're back. Congratulations, if you are here, that means you actually checked out my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And apparently, statistically, if you ask this, people tend to do it, Adam. Did you know about this? So I'm going to ask you all.
All right.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Please. It really
And
does
hit
help.
that notification bell. Don't forget
And
about that.
Slam that notification bell.
Slam that like button.
Yeah. And now that we got all the formalities out of the way, we're going to move to our next big topic, which is civil unrest. Our country is more divided than ever at this moment in time. We see, apart from the whole Black Lives Matter movement, that we just see a huge divide between the right and the left. And it is a genuine shame that it has become essentially a war amongst these two sides of government, which really should be working together to make our country better. However, along with this, we simply cannot ignore the fact of the massive Black Lives Matter movement that has been happening in our country right now. Our president refuses to denounce white supremacy. Our president seems to be not on the black people's side, needless to say, and nothing is really getting better. So I just gotta ask, where's the beef, Adam?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? So
Well,
let's prick your mind here.
all right.
So, and now that we're
What do you
off
got?
air, really anything goes. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Oh boy.
Oh.
So what do you want to know? What do you want to hear about me?
Just what? I can't think of the words.
Well, this went off the rails
It
quickly.
really did. That's what happens when you don't have to worry about anything anymore.
Yeah.
Systematic racism.
Wait. I have to edit out all the curse words on what are you eating. But on this, that's going to be part of what are you doing? You could do whatever?
No, we're not cursing. Like,
Oh, well, it's good that you clarified that.
I try to keep my content PG, however, and then that's PG-13 actually. So
You can say one F word in PG.
we're allowed one F-bomb. Who wants it?
Jack.
Nah.
Jack, you have been given the F-bomb. So
All right, well, I can't use it now. That's too easy.
Whatever you want.
Whenever you want to use it, you're allowed to use it. So
okay.
All right, Adam.
Yeah.
Systemic racism.
Systemic racism.
Does it exist?
Absolutely, it exists.
How so? Explain
it
that
exists
to me.
in many different forms of government. So the example I love to go right off the bat to is when you look at the war on drugs, right?
Okay.
So that disproportionately affects people of color. All right. Now the studies show that white people and people of color and black people, they use marijuana at about the same rate. But black people are 4 times more likely to be arrested for it. And then when you look at what's that?
Why is that, Adam?
Why is that? Well, again, it just comes down to the systemic racism and where the police are patrolling areas. When you have places with a high level of people of color that are being over-policed, as opposed to a white neighborhood, that is going to cause these disparities, not just when it comes to the war on drugs, but when it comes to crime in general. People have the belief that when you have more police in an area, it means it's going to be safer. That's not true. It's just, people are like, well, these cities have a higher crime rate and such. It's because they're being over policed. If you go to a white neighborhood versus a black neighborhood, the white neighborhoods are never going to have the level of policing that the black neighborhoods do. So that's just one area. I mean, you can go into housing with like redlining laws and such. That is racist and in the system.
What's a redlining law?
Redlining?
Yes, I am not familiar with that.
It's where it's like where the federal government. I'm having trouble explaining this.
Oh, wow.
I brought up something and I can't explain it.
Wow. Sounds like a typical Democrat move. Am I right, Jack?
Nah.
High five.
Maybe Jack can bring in some knowledge here. Jack,
wait, what's the redlining?
Jack's not even paying attention.
Hold on. It's when I'm looking up the actual definition.
Got it. It is
when you refuse a loan or insurance to someone because they live in an area deemed too poor to be a financial risk. Deemed to be a poor financial risk. Sorry. So.
Yes. So basically, to add on to that, is the banks would avoid investing in places based on the demographics. So obviously, and that is areas where there are high people of color in inner city neighborhoods, the banks wouldn't give out loans there just because of the demographic, not for any other reason. It's solely based on the race.
That doesn't seem right if you ask me.
No,
You know?
that's why I'm saying that is a example of
Okay, see,
systemic racism.
see that makes a bit more sense to me because I'm going to be honest with you. The systemic racism I've always been a bit little skeptical on. Like I always understood that there are obviously racist people in America. That's a shocking moment. That's a shocker. All right, and obviously some of them have found their way in our police departments and upper levels of our government, and it's a genuine shame. Like I'll be honest with y'all, I don't think all cops are bastards. I'm gonna be honest. So, like my
And here's what
hold
you're
on,
micing from that
hold on,
is that
I
it's
mean,
all
you
cops are
let me finish.
bastardized
let
by
me
the
finish.
system,
Let
and
me
Adam's
finish.
going to explain it.
Jack, am I gonna have to mute your mic? Am I gonna have to mute your mic? So,
Who, me?
yes, you.
Yes, you.
Couldn't be.
Shut up. I don't even remember my point. Just go on. What were you gonna say,
Adam was speaking.
Adam?
Well, I believe Jack was going to say something about your comment about all cops not being bastards.
Yes.
But if you want me to take over, I can if you want. I don't care.
Go for it, Adam, and I'll add on if
Well,
I want to.
I assume when you say all cops aren't bastards, you mean that they're not all bad, right?
Yes.
The thing is, sure, all cops aren't bad. It's that they're working for a system that is bad.
No.
So
to that point, the reason why ACAB is not all cops are bad is because it's not trying to say all cops are bad people. It's saying that good people, by becoming a cop, you're being bastardized by the system. So if you were to join, let's say, a corporation, right, that is doing terrible things, now you might be a good person that goes in with good intentions, but ultimately you're working for a corporation that is doing awful things, right? You've been bastardized by it. That's what it's saying.
This is something I might need to think on a bit more because right now, I'm going to be honest with you, gents, I'm not really agreeing with your points here. So, like,
So what would be your
what do you not agree with?
your counter?
Like your whole thing is you're saying they're being bastardized by the system. Like, so you're saying the system is making them racist? Is that what you're saying?
No.
The system is causing a. I'll let Adam explain it. You might be able to say it better than I can.
Going to say the system itself is racist. So,
yeah,
well, the cop himself may not be racist. He's enforcing a racist system. He's enforcing racist laws and enforcing a racist justice system.
Okay,
So let's say there was a club. Let's say there was a chess club, right? I mean, this is going to be a kind of wild example, but let's say there's a chess club, and you go into it and say, "I really want to play chess, so I'm going to join the chess club." Well, it turns out that the chess club also at night goes out and beats people in the streets. All right. Now, you might really want to play chess, but you're encouraging a system that is okay with going out in the streets at night and beating people.
Jack, that was a really good example. I gotta give you that because
Thank you.
I'm just imagining Mr. Nelson.
Chess players. All of their bats are shaped like the chess pieces. If that's what you're wondering.
Okay, thank you. That was a really good clarification. So, again, I get what you're. I do under. All right, I'm understanding your point a bit more here.
And let's go with the facts of. People bring up the fact that there's a lot of white people that are brutalized by the police or killed by the police too. One, to me, that just points a bigger problem at the police needing to be reformed, and changed, and the system needs to be changed. But the other point to that is look at the percentages. People of color are 2 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a white person. Which if you're looking at it and saying, well, more white people are being in general are being killed, statistically, the percentages, which is what really matters, the actual percent of how many people, what's your likelihood, right? Gambling, you look at the percentage. People of color are way more likely to be killed by the police.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I get it. All right,
Yeah.
and it is. I'm not going to pretend to understand everything that goes through a police officer's head when he approaches someone's car or when he goes to do something. In some cases, I can understand that maybe it was a genuine accident. However, in some of the more recent cases, like with George Floyd, I can easily say that that was no accident. So
Yeah,
that
well,
was
it's not just recent cases. I mean, this is going,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That was a poor choice of words. Like, you understand, you get what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, you're saying cases that happened that have been made public within the year.
yes.
Yeah, because
It
I
is.
mean, the LAPD in particular has a huge history of racism within their police system.
Mhm.
And I think, I guess I can see it just being traced back now to the system. So, because if the system is flawed, then clearly a cop is going to act in a flawed way. He might not
Yeah.
inherently be, he might not inherently have these bad opinions against whoever the target group is. Pick a minority. Adam, pick a minority. So,
Pick a
spin the
minority.
wheel. Spin the wheel.
What?
Spin the minority wheel. Jack, spin the minority wheel.
Asian.
So, Asian.
There you go.
He might not be racist against Asians, but if the system is designed to more or less arrest more Asians, then okay, this
I mean,
was
think about it. If you're told, so to that point, if you're told in your training that a certain group of people needs to have more police officers, going back to Adam's point of typically there's more officers in places where there's a lot of people of color, right? If you're constantly told during all your training and during your time on the force that this group of people needs to be policed because they commit more crimes, this they need to be policed because they commit more crimes, your mentality when you're just on the street, if you see that group of people, your focus is going to be on them because you are told that they commit more crimes, whether that is true or not. And so immediately when you get to a case, and we're seeing this with a lot of the cases this year, I mean, specifically within this year, there's been cases going on for decades and decades. But for this, in the cases that have been brought to light this year, you're seeing where the officer shows up and immediately goes to the person of color, in many cases the black person, and points them out as the culprit without even knowing the facts of the case. People bring up the criminal history or any history with the person involved. The cop didn't know that when they showed up. That's the media trying to cover their track.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Good.
Makes sense to me. So, with that, any what needs to change then, Adam? What needs to change within our system? What do people need to?
Well,
what do we got to do?
there are certainly small starts. There are common sense things that need to be done with the police, like having more training for them, implicit bias training, also making sure that there are policies in place where using a weapon is a last resort. Those are just things we can get into the whole defund the police movement if you want to.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean,
But
might as well. We're
we got
here,
time
aren't
for
we? Let's just do it. All right.
Okay.
Adam, let me ask you a question now. Do you believe we should defund the police?
The short answer is yes. But I think the long answer comes down to what you mean by defunding the police, because I think a lot of people don't really know or have different interpretations So there are some people who say defund the police means you're going to strip them of all their funding and just go to basically like a public safety. There is no more police. You abolish the police, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't know what Jack's definition of defund the police is. Is it that, Jack?
No, I would say when I hear defund the police, I hear take away unnecessary. We don't need officers that have military gear, right? Because the only reason that they would have military gear is to use it on American citizens, and that's not their job. Their job is not to be a militarized force, right? So their job is to help keep the peace and enforce the law. So take that money and put it towards creating different sections of the police. One, increase the training. They need way more training than what they have. But also, I think you can ask an officer this. Go up and ask a cop. Do you feel like you have the necessary training if someone is thinking of committing suicide to talk them out of that? Do you think that you're okay to go to a domestic violence case and deal with that? There's been countless cases where police show up and just make it worse because they don't know how to deal with that. They don't have the training. And so there needs to be other segments of the police that are in charge of that. It shouldn't be a one-person do-all job. You can't do that, especially not with the training that we have now.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by, like, what do we got to do for more training?
Create different units. Well, one, there needs to be much more of a lot more racial training. I mean, you need to. There needs to also be laws in place, and this isn't necessarily on the training side of things, but the mentality of protect your own on the force needs to stop. If you see an officer breaking a crime or committing a crime, that officer needs to report it. They're not above the law, and that's a lot of things of what we're seeing when you go to the chief of police after a black person's been killed, and they're like, well, we got to protect our own, that sort of thing. You can't have that. In fact, there's a law that people are floating around that I actually really agree with, which is if you're on a case and one of your officers does something and you don't go in and say something and basically tell and say, hey, I saw this officer doing anything, then if that case comes to light, you can be tried for the exact same thing that the officer did, whether you did it or not, because you didn't report it. And I see officers say, well, that creates mistrust and stuff. No, that's flipping it. Okay? The mistrust is on the officer who commits the crime. If an officer commits the crime, they are breaking your trust. It is not on everyone else to suddenly support them. That officer broke the trust. Punish them. You don't want them on your team. And so it's flipped, and we need to unflip it.
If someone breaks the law, regardless of who it is, whether it be the lowest person in our society to the highest person being our president, they need to be tried for it. Like, no one is above the law. That's what makes us better than the cavemen, is that we actually have an understanding of laws, systems, and we care about people rather than just the thing. I can't even think of the word right now. You understand what I'm getting at here. So
yeah, that you're not above the law even if you're enforcing it.
And this whole mentality of protect your own, that doesn't seem right to me. So
No.
it doesn't seem right to me. Like that's like, I don't have a good example for this. So, but needless to say, it's that I do not agree with. Like, there really shouldn't be this whole mindset of like, well, we're just looking out for each other. I thought you in that position were supposed to be looking out for me. So
yeah,
that's
it's not. It's treated like a club, and it shouldn't be that. It should be it's a job. Right,
Yeah.
and it's a job that you're supposed to be protecting the people, and the fact that there are many groups of people, entire groups of people, that are afraid to call the cops because the cop might show up and immediately blame them just for their skin color or how they look. That's a problem. That's systemic racism.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. See, this makes sense now. This makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Man, why didn't no one tell me about this?
I really
Yeah,
completely.
this is what happens when things become super politicized.
Yeah, it is bizarre that we seem to have fallen. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but we've slipped down this nasty path where some people can manage to put themselves above the law, even though they are in charge of the laws. So
Yeah.
that's doesn't seem very cash money to me, Adam. I'm gonna be honest
Right.
with you.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think it's cash money either.
No,
Jack, you don't think it's cash money, right?
it's not
So-
even coin money.
Well,
Damn, I don't.
Sorry
I
for
don't,
that one.
I don't
Had
think
to
we could.
throw it in.
I don't think we could say that. So we're in a national coin shortage, Jack.
you're
I
right.
forgot about that. You're right.
Which-
Sorry to bring up the tough feelings because we haven't done that so far in this show.
Time out. How do we run out of coins?
Well,
Like,
Wishing wells.
thanks, Jack. Jack
You're
Deal,
You're
ladies.
welcome.
Jack Deal, ladies. and
I'll be
gentlemen.
here all week. Possibly the week after if Tommy has me on.
Yeah, maybe. That's
do I get to be on again too?
no. This is that'll be a Jack only episode.
Wow, that's not
No.
fair.
I'm paying
It's
him.
not Jack.
What did he
I'm
have
not
that I
actually.
don't?
It's the director, Jack Deal.
About his new film.
That is a new film. So make sure you
Yeah.
check out next week's episode. Jack Deal made a movie, and
You know,
I have an exclusive interview with him about it.
If I
So-
made a
This is
movie,
true.
would I be on your show?
Absolutely. So
All right.
what is this not good? Is this not good enough for you?
What?
This not good enough for you?
What do you
This is
mean?
like this is an election special.
Yeah, I
Adam.
know. I'm happy to be here.
All right.
I'm glad.
Yeah, but he was invited on first. So
You're right. I wasn't going to be on, but then you kind of had to scram for somebody.
Well, here we are, aren't we?
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Anyway, back to the election.
Back to the election. So,
Let me add one
with
more
that-
thing about.
please, I was gonna
About the
move
police.
on. So
Yeah, one more thing
please.
about the police here. About defunding the police, is that you have some of these cities where the police budget makes up almost like half the entire budget, which means that there are crucial areas like healthcare, education, housing, and such that are not being funded properly. So a big thing I would say is you take some of the funding from the police and you distribute it out to those other sectors. And what you'll notice is that the amount of crime and the need for police goes down. Because when people's standard of living goes up, they're less likely to go and commit crimes or something. So if you increase the access to the education, you give them better health care, you give them better housing, you give them the mental treatment and the drug abuse treatment that they need if they have it, then it'll automatically lower the crime rate. More police is not lowering the crime rate.
What a bizarre thing. One of the most bizarre things I found or was kind of realized, especially with all these riots and civil unrest throughout the country, is the amount of military-esque gear our police officers have, which was a little shocking. It's like, why do you have all this? I understand you need to be prepared for situations, but that just seemed a little excessive. Like, you're using military grade stuff on. You have
And that's what
military
Jack brought up
grade
before with, instead of the funding for the military gear of police, use that funding for more training and more resources elsewhere for that they need help with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
I mean, it's a scary sight when you see videos of these protesters and people are going to say, oh, there's rioting and looting and stuff. A majority of the protests, a vast majority of the protests, were completely peaceful. Now, there's a whole other issue of the media doesn't cover that because it doesn't create a headline. But a vast majority of them are peaceful. And when you see those protests going on and all of a sudden you have people in military outfits walking towards you and they're police, that should scare you. Because what's to say that this is something that I think even if you're a Republican, right? A Republican, a conservative's big thing is they don't want a big government, and yet you're completely fine defending a police force that at any point could turn around if ordered to do so and take away certain rights, like the right to protest, the right to freedom of speech, and that's a government-run program, a government-run military force are used on American citizens. How is that okay?
To be honest with you, Jack, I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
It shouldn't be for most people.
And that's where I'm going to leave that topic. Next up, and probably our last topic of the evening here, ladies and gentlemen, will be, oh my gosh, I just had it. What am I talking about? What are we talking about?
Favorite margaritas.
What?
What?
What did you just say?
Me? I said favorite margaritas.
Favorite margaritas.
Margaritas. That's not the topic. Don't do that.
I don't drink margaritas because I'm not.
Well, there's the problem.
I'm not a girl.
Let's talk about sexism as our last topic.
I disagree. Statistically speaking, females drink more margaritas than men. That is not sexism. That is statisticism. All right. So, statisticism. And you can look that one up. You can look that one up, Jack. So
I am.
I know you are. So I completely lost my next point. Adam, is there any big topic you want to discuss as I'm trying to think of this?
Do you remember what? You don't remember what topic you wanted to talk about?
No, not at all. I mean, we covered who we. Actually,
we didn't talk about climate change or immigration. I think either of those would be good.
Or healthcare.
Or healthcare.
Oh God, we didn't talk about any of that. So,
no. See, Jack kept bringing it up, and you said we got that segment coming later.
Oh man, I guess
I did. I did give my Medicare for. Honestly, I would say let's talk about immigration because the debates didn't cover that.
All right, immigration.
Didn't third debate cover that?
Did it?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
Did it cover immigration? I thought.
Because
I didn't think they did.
Biden built the cages, but Trump's still using them.
Right. That was specific. That was immigration, but specifically about the new number that came out, about 540 something. I think kids were separated, which is an important number, but I don't think they talked about it as a whole, from what I remember.
I think they could have went more in depth, but
yeah. Well, Tommy, what do you want? You got healthcare, immigration, or climate change?
We can hit a little bit of each of these topics because I don't think there's going to be too much disagreement.
That's what you think. Disagreements, yes.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, let's start with climate change here, since I actually know this topic. So, the world right now is...
The world is a vampire.
The world is a vampire. Santa Jane.
We don't want to hear you singing on the show, darling.
Out of my range, I'm still just a rat in a cage. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are actually still listening to this, you need to know if you are ever feeling down in the dumps, if life ever gets you a little sad, let it be said that if you just start singing that part of the song, so Bullet with Butterfly Wings, is that what it's called? Or is it Butterfly with... Oh man, I think it's Bullet with Butterfly Wings. Hold on. Adam, talk about climate change.
That doesn't sound like a very effective bullet.
So, talk about climate change. The world...
What? I don't know what happened. I'll just talk about climate change.
Talk about climate change.
So, the first thing you need to know is that climate change is real. And it's caused by...
Okay, yes. Sorry to interrupt you. It's Bullet with Butterfly Wings. I was right by Smashing Pumpkins. So,
why would you smash pumpkins?
Because Halloween's over.
Halloween's over. It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time.
Right, Adam? Shut up. It's not Christmas till December. So
that's true. That's a good point, Tommy.
That's not true. Actually, Jamie Morris agrees with me.
Jamie Morris is wrong.
Yeah. So,
well,
Jamie
there
Morris
you have
is
it. Anyway.
So, climate change. Let me do my monologue. Let me do my monologue now.
Okay, go for it.
Climate change is real, and you can quote me on that one. I'm not saying I deserve a medal for that controversial opinion, but it wouldn't hurt, ladies and gentlemen. The way of our world, we are taking more than we are giving back. We are drastically affecting our environment in ways our planet has never seen in the billions of years it has been around. And arguably, we are doing it for the negative. There is mass pollution of air, water, land, everything. We are stripping our planet dry of all its natural resources. There are many alternatives to solve this. However, in our current administration, they are opting to ignore some of these facts and ignore some of these options. Adam, how are you doing now that the world's on fire?
How am I doing?
We got him now.
Unfortunate. It's unfortunate and sad to see the changes happening within our eyes and people still not admitting that we have a real problem on our hands. And ways to fix it that are not only, I mean, that's not easy to do, but they will actually help us in the long run, both by stopping climate change from becoming so bad that we can't live through it, but also improving our air and our water and our economy in too. You could do everything at the same time, except you have the Trump administration who wants to just go back and try and revive the coal industry and revive the oil industry, which are on the decline anyway.
Here's what I don't get, Adam. What I don't get. Why wouldn't we want to use more renewable sources of energy?
That's exactly my point. I don't understand.
Oil will run out eventually. We will eventually run out of oil. We will eventually run out of coal. What we won't run out of is air. We won't run out of water. We won't run out of nuclear energy.
The sun is here for a while, I believe, right?
The sun, it will be here. I believe it'll blow up in 4.5 billion years or something.
So we got a little time before that happens.
We can prepare for that.
That's like my kid's problem or something. So it's like my kid.
It's like kid. So. I mean, solar and wind are getting cheaper by the year to the point where in many areas they're actually cheaper now than coal and oil anyway. So naturally the market is kind of going in that direction anyway, but we need to make it faster. So the government has to step in and they have to make sure that, we're giving the incentives. I don't know why we're still giving, what do you want to call it?
Tax breaks
and incentives and stuff to the oil and gas industry. We're still subsidizing them, is what the word I was looking for, when we could be giving that money to renewable energy, which, again, is cleaner, it's safer, it's efficient.
But Adam, let me ask you something. What about all these jobs in the coal and gas industry? If we're going to phase all these industries out,
that's the thing.
That's millions of jobs just going down the drain.
The clean energy industry will create even more jobs than the fossil fuel industry. So now, I know people are like,
that's crazy.
I know Joe Biden even says it himself. You can't ban fracking and all that, but you can. You don't do it overnight, but you do it. And you can do it safely by making sure that the people who work in that industry get a job in the clean energy industry. Those are the people that are going to get jobs in the industry. That's what the government will make sure of. That anybody who loses their job will get the proper training so they can work in another field.
And you see, many of these oil and gas industries are already investing in cleaner alternatives. Like, they see where the market is going.
Right. They realize that they can't survive just being solely a oil industry or something. They have to, go along with what the market is doing and where it's the most efficient and energy efficient and
where's the money
cost efficient.
So I think within our lifetimes we will see a drastic shift in in energy for this sort of thing.
If we want to keep
depends on who you vote for,
we're going to have to move away from fossil fuels in our lifetime. We have no choice. You know?
Yeah. Jack, what about you? What's your favorite type of clean energy?
I love drinking oil. Personally, I think oil is very tasty,
All right.
but it's not a very good
I
use
have a
of
serious
energy
answer.
on our environment. I have a serious answer too.
Well,
But
Jack, sorry, your time is up. Please, Adam.
man,
So,
My
Adam,
favorite type of
yeah.
clean energy. Now, this one might come. It's not one that we talk about more often, but I'm really interested in the geothermal energy.
Explain that to me a bit more because I don't know a lot about it.
It's using the thermal energy below the earth, in the ground, and the heat there, and you can use that heat to create energy. So often, I think like Hawaii, maybe Nevada, and states like that, they have a lot of capacity where they can convert the heat from under the earth into energy, and it could be a huge producer. It can't be. I don't think in New Jersey you're going to be able to do it here, but in some of those states out west, that could be a huge energy producer, and it doesn't create any emissions. And it's safe and it's cheap as well. So
could you explain the science behind that a bit for me because I'm a little confused, like how it works.
So you take it's I guess you drill into the earth.
Oh, okay. So we're fracking now.
It's
All
not
right.
fracking.
It feels like we're fracking.
You're literally you go deep into the earth where there is.
How deep we talking? How deep we talking?
We're pretty deep. Probably I don't know an exact number, but probably thousands of feet into the earth.
Okay.
Because you have to get far enough to where it's basically
you
really
drill hot. You want to drill into the mantle is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, you basically drill deep. So, and you extract that hot water, which you can turn into steam. And just like any other process, that steam can turn a turbine and become a generator where you create energy.
Okay.
So it's instead of, like with solar, it's basically converting the sunlight into energy to turn a generator and create energy. With wind, same thing, turning the wind turbine to create energy. This is just taking that hot water from the earth, making it into steam and turning that generator.
Yeah.
It's an interesting problem.
That's very interesting. I never actually heard of that one before.
Yeah.
I know drilling that deep into the earth is very, very difficult. So that is a very costly process.
Right, and that's why only certain areas it's able to be done. Usually
and
in the
another
western.
thing is drilling that deep, we usually don't do because there is an immense amount of pressure that a lot of our equipment cannot withstand. And B, there are some theoretical problems that we simply don't have enough understanding of.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading this, there are these pockets in the mantle that could literally explode and cause pretty much mass. I forget what it's called. I might be talking out of my bum here with this one, but I could have sworn I was just reading something in my planet Earth class about this.
Right.
I'm not sure but there's a lot of theoretical stuff that we just don't know enough about, but that is very interesting to me. My favorite is nuclear. Now, I love nuclear. Now, big problem with nuclear is people are like, well, what about Chernobyl? Listen, if Chernobyl never happened, every country on Earth would use it. What?
Chernobyl was a comedy.
Chernobyl was a comedy. For anyone who's listening, that is probably one of the strangest inside jokes I simply can't explain.
I'm in the inside joke, and I don't get it.
Jack was there?
No, actually, I'm not. I am within the group that has the inside joke, and I don't get it.
Because
it's a very confusing one.
Yeah, Jack wasn't there.
So you're not in the inside joke, Jack.
I guess I'm not.
Yeah. So that is a very hard thing to explain. So guess what? I'm not gonna. Just remember, Chernobyl was a comedy. So, yeah, I'm putting that on a shirt. Are you kidding me? I'm putting that on a shirt. Yeah, I really like nuclear. It is very efficient. It is very powerful. The thing is, it does create some waste.
Yeah.
And that waste can be reused in certain ways. That's the big thing. But again, it does come with a very people are like, what about Chernobyl? Again, Chernobyl, that was a 1 in a million situation. Now, the situation that happened in Japan a couple of years ago, that is a valid point of if a natural disaster strikes a nuclear power plant, there's virtually nothing we can do to stop it because you can't turn off a nuclear power plant. There's no off button. The way nuclear radiation, for anyone who doesn't know, the SparkNotes way to describe this is we're getting energy from a decaying radioactive material. And we do this because it's emitting tons of energy off of it. And we're also keeping it cooled to prevent it from overheating and essentially destroying the plant. If it doesn't stay cooled, it starts melting, and that's when it becomes a meltdown. So, needless to say, I love nuclear. Jack, Adam, you seem like you have something to say here.
Well, I was going to say, nuclear is an interesting one because there is waste to it, which we have to figure out how to deal with. But you're right that it is clean and it is cheap once you get the nuclear plant running. It's very expensive to build the nuclear plant.
Yeah, well, so is drilling into the mantle, but you don't hear me complaining. So
Fair point. All right.
Plus, I don't know. It might be. I know it is very, very efficient as well. So, like, you will get.
Yeah, definitely is efficient. So,
yeah.
I just think we have to. I wouldn't say we got to get rid of nuclear. I know there's some people who say we shouldn't have that part of our portfolio. I just think we need to figure out what to do with the waste before we start really adding more nuclear plants.
We'll just bury it like we do with all the other stuff. Just bury it.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem for someone else. No,
your kids. It's a problem for your kids.
Yeah, problem for my kids. No, in all honesty, I agree. There are we don't have a solid way to destroy nuclear waste. So right now we quite literally put it in a bunker and say we'll deal with it later. So Jack, you want to give me an actual answer? What's your favorite type of clean energy?
I don't actually know. I'm very interested in what Adam was saying.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
But but in other cases, because here's the thing: solar does a lot, wind does a lot, but then there's also the case to be made.
Jack, wait! But wind kills the birds.
Wind does kill the birds.
And it kills
President Trump, 2020, is what he said. But then when you look at, there are some downsides to that in the sense of the amount of. I don't know as much about it as I should, but I know there are still downsides to the environment in terms of clearing land, and placement of all this. And I like the idea that Adam has because I think that is clean energy in the sense of solar and wind is we need to look at. But then I also think we need to open up the conversation to going beyond that. What's something else that we can do that doesn't have as many downsides, that isn't something that is being pushed by different possibly sketchy corporations, even though that they might be more environmentally active than the ones that are pushing oil. I don't know if Adam wants to speak on that at all, but basically I hadn't heard a lot about what Adam had talked about, and that's an interesting solution I'd have to look more into.
Well, like I said, the problem with that one is that it can't be used everywhere.
No.
It's definitely it would be good for Western states, but in the Northeast here, you'd probably have to rely more on solar and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we need to have the conversation. And so it was a big moment. Well, Trump thought it was a big moment in the debate when Biden said we're going to move away from oil. And Trump said, did you hear that? Did you hear that, folks? That's a big confession right there. And he acted like it was a big moment. But as you said, Tommy, we have to.
Yeah.
Eventually, we have to. It's not it shouldn't be a polarizing statement to say we need to come up with another solution besides oil.
We will run out.
Yeah, and we need to start a plan to move away from that now.
Yeah,
this is not something that you push down the line.
Like if we don't ever, like, worst case scenario, we never move away from oil. Within our lifetimes, within our kids and our grandkids, we'll probably still have plenty of oil. But the thing is, eventually, within the next 100, 200, 300 years, there's going to be some serious problems. And if we aren't prepared for something new, if we aren't ready which again, in 300 years, I would hope the world is a lot different than it is right now. But
we're coming up on some deadlines. Scientists say 2030, 2050. These are serious point of no return deadlines that I think people are just thinking, well, that's not now, right? And that's something that this election is ultimately about, in many cases, at least in many cases, of empathy towards something that might not affect you in the moment.
yeah,
right? Trump is, in terms of the climate, Trump is very anti-climate. He's very anti-science. And yeah, maybe in our lifetime, we'll be fine. We might see some negative effects, but not that much. But think about children. Think about the generations after that. And then look at police brutality. Look at systemic racism. That's something that might not affect you because you're a white guy. But you have to have a little bit of empathy towards other people. In terms of LGBT rights, that's something that we haven't really even talked about in this whole radio show, but that's something that's also on the ballot. Because yeah, Biden isn't perfect on that either, but he at least believes that they should have rights, while Trump is actively trying to remove them. I mean, there's 2, possibly now 3 people on the Supreme Court that have tried to remove same-sex marriage. And they've tried to remove Roe v. Wade.
Let's quickly talk about this. I don't understand. Like, who cares if 2 guys want to get married? Who cares if 2 women want to get married? Who cares if a guy wants to be a girl? Who cares if a girl wants to be, I don't know, pick a gender? So, I don't care. Why does it matter? We're not here for a short. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a short time. So,
yeah.
And remember that on the geological time scale, Adam and Jack, our lives are insignificant. So on the geological time scale wise,
it's true.
So, and you could quote me on that again. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a short time. So, and it's like, why does that matter? If someone, am I crazy for thinking that? Like, I feel like that's just an obvious thing. Is like, why is that a problem? If 2 people love each other, let them get married. I don't care who they are.
Well, that's a lot of it comes down to religion, which for a secular country, there's a lot of people that base their opinions entirely on religion and then push Christianity. I mean, people talk all the time. I mean, this, I think, is ultimately a silly argument when people are like, oh my God, there's a war on Christmas. Which there's not a war on Christmas. 90% of the country celebrates Christmas, even those who don't say that they're Christian.
Yeah, we know, Adam. We know you like Christmas.
Yeah. And my point is that there's this victim mentality where if someone that if you're trying to push without even realizing it, I think a lot of people are trying to push a single religion in a country that's secular. And this goes to here where it's like you're pushing your own beliefs on someone and ultimately limiting their rights. And no, it is not. I've heard people say, well, they want more rights. No, they just want to be treated with the same rights as everyone else.
It's
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm
Yeah.
yawning.
Equal
I think
rights, I think, on a lot of people's minds, and this comes back kind of to the Black Lives Matter with people creating All Lives Matter in retaliation to that, where just because one group of people are saying that they matter doesn't mean that everyone else doesn't. It just means that they want to be on that same playing field as everyone else.
Because here's my thing with that is, I agree. Now, this is gonna, you gotta hear me the whole way through, because this can be taken out of context, all right? I agree that all life matters. Like, no one person is above another.
Cut it there.
Yeah. So, the All Lives Matter movement, I understand, is made in complete opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement. So it's a shame I can't support something like that, because they're like, well, your lives don't just matter, everyone does. It's like, well, yeah, but right
Yeah.
now, like, my life, like, white people aren't dying out, you know? I mean, I mean, we've been here for a long time. I think I could easily say that one. So
Yeah.
I don't see the war on white people happening.
No, and it's the same thing with Blue Lives Matter came up in retaliation. But the difference with that is it's an occupational choice to be a police officer. Now, maybe that's your dream job, whatever, right? It's still an occupational choice, right? I want to be a director. I could at any point turn around and say, I actually want to be a plumber and go that direction. Right? Or I want to be a journalist. But this is my point, is that I have the choice to change that.
First of all,
skin color is not that.
Let's start with the obvious. Number one, yeah, you probably could go from being a director to a journalist. Sorry, a director to a plumber. You probably couldn't go from being a director to a journalist.
You could go back to school.
Okay.
I think Jack would make a good plumber.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Speaking of which, now's a good time to talk about that.
So, that dummy thick bum of his. So as he bends over,
clog up all the the broken pipes.
We're gonna make Drac drink a gallon of milk before he goes to fix your pipes.
You got to make sure they're working. But the point is there. That it's again, you can't teach. It's hard to teach people basic empathy, and so I just ask it before you jump to I'm a Republican, therefore I must support Trump no matter what. Think about people besides yourself, and just consider what this election would mean if Trump got another 4 years. What it would mean for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Just try to think about that.
I think we are actually going to wind down the clock here. So we didn't get to everything.
I wanted to say that it's funny.
All
Jack
right.
said, let's not make this too late. And here we are at 11:45.
Yeah, here we are at 11:45. Well, I meant to start too late because now we're stopping at midnight versus stopping at like 1 o'clock.
First of all, now you've killed the paradigm I've set, because
edit that part out.
I've been speaking as if we were live on election day. So
I know
you just killed the paradigm and you revealed to
Well, good
everyone.
thing I didn't say that on the air.
Yeah, good thing you didn't say it on air.
Yeah, but you can edit this part out.
I'm not gonna. So,
okay. Well, at this point, things are here on election day. Things are pretty crazy.
Shut up. It's ruined.
It's ruined. It's over.
I can't believe Trump won Michigan.
I'm posting this before it happens. So,
yeah.
Hopefully, assuming I can get it up and running. Needless to say, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Jack, Adam, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for
having us.
Do you want to know a secret?
Yeah.
I never had another guest. It was all a ruse just to make you guys feel like, oh wow, he needs us. He really needs us.
I don't think that's true. I don't buy that. I think you absolutely had another guest and they canceled.
I had no one else to ask.
I think that's a lie.
It's not a lie.
I'm calling the bluff.
I can show you my tax returns if you want.
All right, let's
Please
see.
do.
So, all right, that is a real life situation to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. Adam, where can the fine people find you?
They could find me on Instagram, AdamFalone18, or Twitter, Adam_Falone.
Wow. Jack, what about you?
You can find me at JackDeal1, DIEHL for Deal on Twitter, JDeal204 for Instagram, or Jack Deal Reviews on YouTube, where I have my new horror
I'm editing
short that I'll be
part out.
talking
I'm
about.
editing that part
Oh, come
out.
on.
I am not promoting your disgusting channel on mine. So,
I don't blame you.
oh, and he used it. He used the F word. He used his F bomb.
I had to throw it in there.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to cut it out. That's so much more work for me.
It's
And of
literally
course-
it's at the end of the video. You could go
You could
2
literally
minutes
just
in
cut
and
out
be
the
fine.
last 20 seconds of this.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess y'all can say the N word during that time.
No,
So,
you cannot at
ladies
all.
and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in. You could find me at Twitter and Instagram at twaters17 and pretty much every other social media out there in the world at that. That's with 2 T's in Waters. And of course, a like, comment, or subscribe, or all 3, I love it, are always really appreciated. Until we meet again, thank you all.